Now, this week was also the week in which, for the first time in 10 years, the entire population of the UK was instructed to fill in a census form. I spoke to Glenn Watson, who's in charge of the census at the Office for National Statistics. I suggested that for the census team, this must be a pretty big moment.
This is really exciting. We've been planning this for the last 7 or 8 years. And yes, Sunday night was census night, and there are millions and millions of forms coming and winging their way back to us as we speak.
And what happens next?
Well, all the questionnaires are heading to our processing centre in Manchester. It's the size of something like 5 football pitches, and that's where all of the 27 million questionnaires will be received and will be scanned, and the initial processing will take place. Our final results will be published in the middle of 2012.
Well, congratulations. We're fans of numbers, so obviously we wish you well. I have to strike a slightly sour note at this point. You've had, as you say, 7 or 8 years to think about this. But it did seem to me, reading through the census, that still some of the questions were a bit ambiguous. Let me give you an example, and you can tell me if I'm just being silly. Question 25 is about qualifications. And it says, which of these qualifications do you have? For all qualifications you hold, select the appropriate options. Click or tick all that apply. But then some of the boxes seem to be mutually exclusive. So you're given the option of if you've got 1 to 4 GCSEs, or if you've got 5 or more GCSEs. You know, I have got 1 to 4 GCSEs, and also I have more than 5 GCSEs. So what should we have done, and is there anything you could have done to make it clearer?
Well, the instructions on the question are quite clear, actually. They say tick every box that applies if you have any of the qualifications listed. So in your case, you know, you could tick the 1 to 4 GCSEs and you could tick the 5 plus GCSEs, and that would be okay. Had you just ticked the 5 pluses, though, that would be okay for us as well, and let me explain why.
Okay. In fact, I did only tick the 5 plus.
So what's most important to the users of census statistics on this particular question is what the highest level of qualifications that people have. And so during all of our testing and all of our research, we found that the best way of capturing that information was actually doing it as we've done it, because some people find it a bit difficult to understand what the highest level of qualification is with you've got old and new systems alongside each other.
Let me put another question to you. And again, clearly this isn't a hanging offence, but you've had a long time to think about this. My wife was complaining that she had done some work in the week before the census. Not very much, actually, because she spent a lot of time looking after the children who were preschool age. So she ticked the box to say she'd done some work, and then was then very cross that she was told to skip over the question that would have let her register the fact that she was looking after the children. So she felt she wanted to tick both boxes, and in fact, she may even have ticked both boxes as an act of petty rebellion. Would it have been so hard to adjust the census in a way that could incorporate people who juggle multiple responsibilities, and many people who do?
Well, I mean, you can appreciate just how many possible permutations and combinations there are. And we can't cater for absolutely every possible circumstance and everything that people would want to do.
You can't cater for sort of really obscure niches such as, say, part-time working mums?
Well, I wouldn't describe people who are part-time working mums as a really obscure niche, of course. What they do is very, very important. But we've designed the census questionnaire to meet the majority of user needs, and I think that's exactly what it does.
There are question marks over the future of the census. Maybe this will be the last census. Some countries do it differently. We have this grand project where every 10 years we take a snapshot of the nation. In France, they have what they call a rolling census. Over the course of several years, they will eventually get round to sampling everyone in the population, but they have a rolling subsample. Is that something that might appeal to the Office for National Statistics, that kind of model?
I'm aware of the French model. It's quite interesting, and I think what would probably happen if we try to do something similar here, I think we'd find that people found it to be inappropriate to be basing that on up-to-date information for part of the country, but information that was 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years out of date for other parts of the country. I think consistency and having the information counting at the same point in time for every part of the country is a really, really important principle for the fair allocation of scarce public resources.
Glenn Watson from the Office for National Statistics.